Crash yesterday. And this was the scene yesterday when LeBron James got off the plane, seemingly brought to tears by the news of Kobe's tragic death. Just the night before, LeBron passed Kobe on the all-time scoring list, a milestone that truly meant the world to him. Here's LeBron from Saturday after passing Kobe on that scoring list.
When I was a kid, when I was in high school, I was growing up through the ranks when Kobe came into the league. He was, it wasn't a dream of mine to come straight, from high school at that point in time to the NBA. But I was like, wow, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid being able to make that leap, that's pretty damn cool. And as I started playing more ball and I went into high school, the things that he was doing on the floor, I, admired and wanted to be a part of. I went to ABCD camp, and he came and talked to all the kids that was there, and I happened to be one of the kids that was there, and I was just listening. I was just trying to soak everything up I could, and I remember one thing that he said. He was like, if you want to try to be, great at it, or want to be one of the greats, you got to put the work in. There's no substitution to work. And I was a 15-year-old kid at that camp. You can actually find the footage of him at that camp. And in 2001, I believe I was playing in New Jersey, and the All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken, and y'all could correct me, was in Philly, right? Yeah, that Saturday, me and Maverick drove to the Intercontinental downtown Philadelphia, and he gave me a pair of his shoes, which I ended up wearing that following night. It was the red, white, and blue Kobe's. I was a 15, and he was a 14, and I wore them anyways. And I sat and just talked to him for a little bit. He gave me the shoes. I rocked them in the game. And it was the same night that we played Oak Hill against Melo. And then I saw what he was able to do the very next night, winning MVP here in Philly. That following night. As I got drafted, I still just admired him. Seeing what he was able to accomplish, winning championships, having, being early in his career where, he learned from the misses that he had against the series against Utah, and he just used that as motivation and got better and better and better to him winning multiple championships, and continued to admire him throughout my high school rank. And then as competitors, just seeing the work ethic that he put into the game. He had zero flaws offensively, zero. You backed off of him, he could shoot the three. You body him up a little bit, he can go around you. He can shoot the mid-range, he can post, he can make free throws. He had zero flaws offensively. And, that's something that I admired as well, just being at a point where the defense will always be at bay, where they couldn't guard you at all offensively, where you just felt like you was just immortal offensively because of your skill set and your work ethic. We take it down to 2008, where we become the Redeem team, and it was a dream come true for me to be able to line up alongside of him. Just admiring him for so many years, and seeing him from afar, and then being able to be in practices with him, and me watching and learning. So on. I mean, it's just too much. It's just too much. The story is just too much. It doesn't make sense. And just to make a long story short, now I'm here in the Lakers uniform in Philadelphia, where he's from, where one of the first time I ever met him, gave me his shoes, he won All-Star Week. It's surreal. It doesn't make no sense, but the universe just puts things in your life, and when you live in the right way, or you just giving everything to whatever you're doing, things happen organically, and it's not supposed to make sense, but it just happens. And I'm happy to be in any conversation with Kobe Bryant, one of the all-time greatest basketball players to ever play, one of the all-time greatest Lakers. The man got 2 jerseys hanging up in Staples Center. It's just crazy.
Such great insight into how much of an impact Kobe had on a whole generation of players. Again, we should mention this was 12 hours before Kobe died. Yes, he had so much to say about just passing him on the scoring list. Nick, let's talk about the impact that Kobe did have on a whole generation of other players.
I want to zero in on one moment, because I know both of these guys played college basketball. Doug played a little bit of pro basketball, and Doug, they both know Kobe far better than I ever did. But one very specific aspect, and LeBron mentioned it there, the Redeem Team, 2008. So let me take you back to 2008, where we are at that point in time. Kobe, it's the summer of 08, and LeBron is becoming LeBron. He's just taken his team to the NBA Finals. D-Wade's already won a championship more recently than Kobe had. Carmelo was at the peak of his powers, and the U.S. had just been mortified on the international stage in 04. And they are cruising through the Olympics, and then they come up against a Spain team that's been together for a long time, that has pros on it, that really felt like we were the better team. And in that moment, in that fourth quarter of those Olympics, LeBron, Wade, Melo, Dwight, Chris Paul, all those guys looked around and said, Kobe's got this.
That's right.
Kobe's got this. He scored 13 in the fourth quarter of that game. He fouled out Rudy Fernandez, who was the other team's. And I know it seems very specific, but you still hear those guys reference that time around Kobe and learning from him as far as what it takes to be a champion, what it takes in those moments. And those are his contemporaries, much less the young, you know, the Lukas and the Giannis's and the guys who came after who didn't get to go. Giannis played him a little bit, but didn't really get to go up against him. All those guys.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because I think that's part of what LeBron has run into, is what you want to call it, the Mamba mentality, or how basketball has always been. Right? Basketball has always been the best player is taking the last shot no matter what. Right? That's just the way it is. It always felt that way, right? Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, they never deferred. And Kobe Bryant never deferred. Right? Even though probably his most famous play at the end of a game is an alley-oop to Shaq.
Right.
The thought is, our perception, whether it's reality or not, is that he was a closer's closer. He was an unabashed alpha. And that's one of the things that LeBron will probably never live up to, because that's not how LeBron is wired, right? LeBron is more wired, has been more wired, regardless of whether the stats that Nick can bring out tell you otherwise. He's more wired to take the right shot than make sure he's the guy who takes the shot, right? And that was the difference in Kobe. And I think that legend only grows with the Mamba mentality, and how so many of these younger players, the Jason Tatums, the Kyrie Irvings, come to him to study his game and work with him in offseason.
From LeBron, who we just saw, his age group down, if they look at Kobe Bryant, Kobe had everything that young players would want to aspire to and what they would be impressed by. He doesn't get this type of publicity a lot. He's one of the greatest game dunkers we've ever seen.
Yeah.
There's one where he goes in transition against another defender behind the back and then does a 360. I think it may have been against Denver. I was at Madison Square Garden. We remember Dr. J's iconic layup where he went from one side of the paint into the other with the layup. I was at Madison Square Garden when Kobe did that against the Knicks, but dunked it, all right? So that impresses the young people. And then, to your point, the closer's mentality. We all remember, as a young guy, the air balls against Utah. But when he really got it done, and I think solidified his reputation as a closer, was the 2000 finals against Indiana. His fourth year in the league, all right? Shaq was the man on the team. Game 4, they're up 2-1. Like, Kobe was playing on a bad ankle. He had missed Game 3 with an ankle injury. Shaq fouls out with like 3 minutes left. And Kobe hits 3 buckets, takes over as a 21-year-old. That solidified him. No matter how many shots he may have made or missed going forward in the clutch, that solidified his place as a closer. And that to that younger generation, that's what they remember about Kobe Bryant.
And you said, you glossed over something, and you said, you know, we all remember the air balls against Utah. I think there's an enormous percentage of our audience who has no idea that ever happened. That in Kobe's first few years, or in the playoffs, he, even as a literal teenager, was like, nope, I got it, guys. And he did. He missed them. I only bring that up today to say this. For a lot of guys, that would ruin them as far as in those situations.
Nick Anderson
missed 3 throws,
was never the same.
And so Kobe as a team took shots that, by the way, I don't believe to this day were drawn up for him. He was just like, nope, coach, I got it. Didn't just miss, airballed. and still always believed, no. This is my shot to take. And you bring up his first championship in year 4, he's 21 years old. That same playoff run, he has one of the most iconic plays in NBA history, the oop to Shaq,
yep.
Game 7 against the Blazers. And people, I guess, rightfully look at those 3 years, because Shaq won the finals MVPs, as Shaq's titles. But you mentioned his first title, 2-1, the swing game of the series. Shaq fouls out, Kobe carries him. The second title, year 2, he's 22 years old. He averaged 29 a game in that playoff run and scored 48 in a closeout game of a playoff series. And then obviously their third title, what he did in the final 3 games against Sacramento, it was scoring 30 in each game. So yeah, he had an unbelievable all-time teammate with Shaq, but they don't win those titles without Kobe Bryant right there alongside him.
But if you asked him, and so this is about a year and a half ago, he texted me, we've been trying to get together, hey, let's have some drinks at a place called Javier's, which is down in Crystal Cove near where he lives. And I mean, we talked about a lot of topics. I mean, just really amazing, eye-opening, like his desire to talk about anything. But, like, look, here's a guy who believed he made all those shots. He didn't, right? He didn't. Matter of fact, he actually made a low percentage of them in comparison to others. Right. But it's the mentality. We had a conversation, I swear to God. He said, Mike knows he can't beat me. I was like, get out of here, dude. Come on, it's Michael Jordan. It's like, you used to try and talk. We'd had a couple drinks, so I was like, you try to talk like Michael Jordan. He's like, that's because he knows full-scale psychological warfare. Like what Kobe would do, like I was like, well, how are you going to take Mike?